Hello everyone, this is Teacher Joanne, and this subject is Statistics and Probability. This is intended for grade 11 senior high school students in the Philippines. Is probability. Let's discuss some basic concepts of probabilities. So, random experiments. So, it is a process or procedure repeatable under basically the same condition, leading to well-defined outcomes. It is random because we can never tell in advance what the realization is going to be, even if we can specify the possible outcomes. Examples. So, tossing a coin. So, there are two possible outcomes here. It's either a head or a tail. And another is rolling a dice. And we have the wheel, color wheel, or roulette, and lottery. So these are just some of an example of a random experiment. Sample space is a set of all possible outcomes of a random experiment. It is denoted by the Greek letter omega or S. So usually, ang nakikita natin here in the Philippines, it's represented by the letter S. It is also known as the universal set. Next, we have outcome. So it is the result of the experiment. And then event. So it's a subset of the sample space denoted by letter in the English alphabet. So an event is an outcome of a random experiment. So let's have an example. So first, given the random experiment, tossing a coin and rolling a die at the same time, give 3 examples of possible outcomes. Identify the sample space and give 1 possible event. So for our sample space, we just have to list all the possible outcomes. So we have head 1, head 2, head 3, head 4, head 5, head 6, same for the tail. So tail 1, tail 2, tail 3, tail 4, tail 5, and tail 6. So that is our sample space. So what is a possible outcome? So for possible outcome, so anything is possible. That's why it's possible outcomes. So it can be head 1, tail 2, head 3. So the answer may vary. Then what is a possible event? So let A be the event of obtaining a head and an odd number. So from the sample space, so for the event A, we are being required to obtain a head and an odd number. So alin-alin ba dito yung may head and odd number? So we have H1, H3, and H5. So that is why our event A, so here is the outcome, H1, H3, H5. So example number 2. This is the sample space of the experiment asking 3 students about having or not having a Facebook account. So let's represent those students having a Facebook account as Y, and then N for those not having a Facebook account. So what are the possible outcomes? So since there are 3 students asked, each outcome must be composed of a combination of 3 responses. So these are as follows. So pwedeng first student, so second student, third student, lahat meron silang Facebook account. So YYY, and then pwede ring YYN, so walang Facebook account yung pangatlo. Pwede rin namang YNN, so yung una lang yung meron. Pwede ring NYY, so yung una lang yung wala. NNY, YNY, NYN, and NNN, or lahat sila ay walang Facebook account. So example number 3, this is the sample space of the experiment asking 3 students about having or not having a Facebook account. Let B the event of obtaining a response that is exactly 2 students have their Facebook account. List down the outcomes on event B. So, since the condition given is that exactly 2 students have their Facebook account, so from the sample space earlier, so maghahanap lang tayo ng outcome na may exactly dalawang Y. Okay, so ito yung sample space natin kanina. So, ito yung may dalawang Y, YYN, NYY, and YNY. So, therefore, yung event B, so ang elements niya ay YYN, NYY, and YNY. So, what are the properties of probabilities? So, probability is a number between 0 and 1 inclusive associated with the likelihood of occurrence of a given event. So, we have the table here. From the left side as a statistical statement, and on the right side, its meaning. So, we have the probability of the set, so represented by the omega, is equal to 1. So, meaning the probability of the sample space is 1. So, this implies also that all probabilities of the events inside the sample space will have a total of 1. So, second, so probability of A, or probability of an event, is greater than or equal to 0 or less than or equal to 1. So, any event, say A, has a probability that can be found anywhere inside the interval 0 to 1. And we have the probability of the null set equals 0. So, any event that is impossible to happen has a probability of 0. So, what are the types of probability? So, first we have the subjective approach. So, it is a personal assessment of the likelihood of occurrence of an event based on all available evidence. So, yung possible na mag-occur, pero dapat meron siyang available evidences or base siya sa evidence, hindi yung basta lang hinulaan. So, example, so a doctor may use subjective probability to assess that a certain person with a rare disease will survive or not the operation. So, pwedeng i-judge siya nung doctor kasi nga, meron siyang rare disease, so he can determine kung magsusurvive ba or hindi yung pasyente sa isang operasyon. So, maaring depende sa type of disease. Then, we have a teacher may ask each student what is their chances of passing the subject and get different responses, of course. Each student pwedeng iba-iba sila ng sagot. So, hindi naman pwedeng tanungin ni teacher yan at the beginning of the class or beginning of the semester pa lang. Kasi the students doesn't have any evidences or basis for answering the question of the teacher if they will pass or not. Kasi hindi pa alam ni student yung kanyang performance on the class. So, evidences here can be their exams and their performance inside the class. So, the student would be able to assess if they would be able to pass the subject. So, next we have relative frequency or empirical approach. It is the proportion of times that a particular outcome occurs in a very large number of observations or experiments. Is a relative frequency of an event in past occurrences. So, example, so if for every 10 people who enter a department store on a payday, 3 make at least 1 purchase, then we can estimate the chance that a person entering this department store on a payday will make at least 1 purchase is 3:10. So, pwedeng yung experiment dito, every 10 person, ino-observe. That's why they were able to assess na for every 10 person, 3 ay may bibilhin sa department store. Another example is 8 out of 10 who are tested positive for COVID-19 are not wearing face mask or face shield. So same thing, so every 10 person na tinitest, so that's the frequency. So they can assess that 8 out of 10 tested positive are not wearing face mask or face shield. Okay, third type, classical or priori approach. So if an experiment can result in n equally likely outcomes and an event can result in n outcomes, then the probability of event A can be obtained as, so probability of A equals number of elements in the given event divided by or over the number of elements in the sample space. Okay, so for example, so what is the probability of getting an odd number in rolling a die? So for this is the sample space for rolling a die. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So 6 lang naman yung side ng dice, and these are the numbers on each faces. Okay, then so there are 6 elements, 3 odd numbers, so 1, 3, and 5. So therefore, the probability of getting an odd number is 3 over 6 or 1/2. So let's have another example. So a box contains different colored balls where 3 are red, 8 are blue, 6 are yellow, and 1 is green. Find the probability of getting a red ball. So there are a total of 18 balls. So 3 plus 8 plus 6 plus 1 is 18. And there are 3 balls which are red. So therefore, the probability of getting a red ball is 3 over 18 or 1 over 6. Okay, so for the third example, so a class consists of 25 girls and 15 boys. If a student is selected from the class, what is the probability of selecting a girl? So there are a total of 40 students, so 25 girls and 15 boys, so that's 40 students in total. There are 25 girls. So the probability of selecting a girl is 25 over 40 or 5 over 8. Okay, so that's it for today, and thank you for listening. See you in our next lesson. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell para ma-notify ka for our next lesson. Okay, bye!